1, 2, 1, 2. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Give you guys a few minutes to come on in. And let's put everything together. Psychology series, April 30th, 2025. Um, Go ahead and open your, let's go full blast. Open up your Baja app. Um, I'm going to do each one at a time. We have the Lean Mean Green Machine, Trader Joe's cold pressed beverage, green vegetable and fruit juices with mint tea. This is what it looks like. Um, we're flushing the system. I've been drinking some organic coconut milk. It's from Thailand, not from the Philippines, and it does tend to take a pinkish hue. It's very different coconuts from what you would find like in the Caribbean, like Dominican Republic. Those are the ones I prefer, but this is part of my health stuff. Give me 1 second. This is very similar to what you will find in your nutritional store. You can tell that it's mass produced because the kick is a little bit different. Um, since we are going to do the psychology series, please open up your Wikipedia app. I have to do everything separate today because we're going to be doing a lot of reading. We're going to do um, epistemology, but let me close out. Um, See if I can open. Okay, new tab. And let's go with, we're going to go psychology. Um, Let me see something. Hmm. Okay. Let's we'll do psychological trauma, branching off from psychosis. So we'll do that. Let's see what we can find in Google News for health, which I couldn't find it in Spanish. Let's see what we can find here. Don't want to go with that. There's a good article on the New York Times, but they may start blocking the actual. Yep. See, they're always gonna try to. Um, they're always gonna try to block it. Mm, Let's see. Okay. We'll do an article from Times Entertainment. Let's see if it loaded completely. Okay, so we'll do that. So let's establish our baseline. Thank you for your patience. As always, I always intended my radio show, my podcast to be conversation style. And I want to share with you some of the challenges that I'm facing on a daily basis. Your body has a limitation, right? Sometimes stress can lead you to exhaustion. I want you guys to Google drowning yourself. Sometimes we drink too much fluids and it's good for you, but too much of it, it's noticeably not as good. 1 second. I have reached a point where I've burned out, you know, and it's not a regular burnout like you feel like, okay, I'm completely burned out. It's more of me monitoring my own patterns and saying, wait a minute, there's something that's not how it should be. I still feel all the energy in the world, you know. I'm like a nuclear reactor, right? I'm the real life Iron Man, Tony Stark's, right? But in the sense that basically the best way I could describe it is I see what my body has been communicating to me. Um, and again, the stress associated with it is what I want to share with you guys. So let's start at the beginning. I've been a child star my whole life. I didn't realize that until I was already maturing. I didn't realize how I kind of tried to keep that from society, got myself into a lot of, you know, tough, challenging situations as a kid. And little by little, what I tried to leave behind came back into fruition because I found myself back in entertainment, you know, doing movies, music, and modeling at different points in my life because my life was very chaotic during the developmental years. And it always has seemed, looking back now into retrospective, that people knew something that they wouldn't share with me. For example, I have relatives that are legendary in music, and we all have family and extended family and friends and extended friends, etc. But I grew up in the middle of this. These were things that people were learning to understand. How do you deal with fame? How do you deal with fortune? What do you do? Well, my family did all the basic things: clothing, jewelry, traveling, high-end luxury sports cars, things like that, and houses good enough to park the cars in. Not optimal. For example, the average owner of a Bentley that costs between 200 and 300,000, the average owner has a net worth of over $25 million. It could be more. I'm giving you old school numbers so you realize how long I've been collecting cars. So, and of course, I'm in the business of it too, but I don't want to divert too much from today's lecture, right? So, for our culture, it's not a common consensus for people where I come from to have these things, right? These uh these trinkets of what is perceived as success, even though we obviously know that that's not success. That's just debt. That's nothing but toxic debt and financial suicide. Uh, if we're calling a spade, right? If we're breaking it down how it's supposed to be. By the way, subconsciously, it is my goal to make every single day count. Today is one of those days, right? So this is one of my beautiful wife's shirt. So it's very dear to me. Uh, my kids were making jokes about it. So I said, I'm going to teach my class in my favorite shirt, right? This is one of many. Anything my wife gives me is my favorite, right? I just gave you the secret to a successful marriage right there. So, what my family was learning during these moments, very, very early childhood developmental years for me, they never mastered. So, as time progressed, they would move on to do it to me in a much worse way. Because when it happened to my relatives, they were already young adults, and even some were successful adults, very few elders at that time. They had a defense mechanism. They knew how to manage and administrate that. I didn't have that, but I did have the need and the propensity to look for that family structure. I didn't understand why it was so hard to come by because what I was trying to understand in the world was the why of things. Why was this happening? This is therapeutic in so many ways because even as a doctor, as a PhD, I am emotionally invested. I have never been able to separate business from my family because as an artist, you're always a public figure, directly or indirectly. Some people understand that, some people don't. Some people, like myself, have tried our best to express it. Not many of us have been successful at expressing it. All the public knows is certain quirks and features, certain attributes and elements that are easy to discuss. So, if you look at the American culture for entertainment, you look at some of the things that these stars have gone through as adults. Imagine how much more difficult it is when you're a young adult. And in my situation, when you're a child, I was doing things that I didn't understand that are not normal for a child to be doing. Fast forward 2025. I have the most neglectful, abusive, toxic, hurtful family members you can ever imagine. Whatever you've seen on TV, whatever you read in a book, they don't have anything on my family. Absolutely at all. I can teach a university style class. I can graduate PhDs just on my family. That means I have a curriculum that could be anywhere from 12 to 18 years nonstop. That's going to summer school, going to school during spring break, and any other breaks in between. Yet, I love them to my default. I cannot turn off my heart to them. I cannot disconnect my mind to them to my own detriment, even though I recognize how unhealthy that is. What allows me to advise my students or my patients or my clients or my colleagues about these things is because I know how hurtful that tunnel is. And I know how rare it is to be in that tunnel. Therefore, the 90 percentile of Earth, I can advise to stay away from situations like that. Just because I'm able to advise you and say, be very careful, doesn't mean that I have the answers to deal with it personally. On top of this mixture, I am extremely religious. I'm a God fearing man. Um, I love love. I love unity. I love, you know, the universal language that you can find through any religion, any culture, any historical background of any part of the world. You have amazing people with hearts that are full of love. In my personal opinion, that is over the 95 percentile. The other 2.9 to 5% are what you need to be careful with, in my personal opinion, based on my experience, my travels, and my understanding. Why is this important? It's important because this is what is going to segue us into today's theories. And I want to share with you what is a challenge. Remember, there are multiple parts to the mind. You have your conscious mind, you have your subconscious mind. We are misguided to write with our right hand, relying on the left brain hemisphere to control the right hand. In your screen is the opposite. So this would be your right. No, this would be your right. And this would be your left, right? So your left brain hemisphere is forced to control your right hand. Remember, opposites. Your right is my left is your right. So I'm doing everything backwards so that when people view this, they understand where I'm coming from. When you use the right part of your brain to control the left extremities, something different happens. So on your right side of the brain is where all your creativity is. Your dreams, hopes, goals, aspirations, all the fly shit that makes you who you are comes from the right hemisphere of the brain. All the animalistic, mechanical things about you come from the left hemisphere of your brain. So if you're using a typewriter or a computer, you're probably using the left hemisphere of your brain. But if you're painting, if you're drawing, if you're designing, if you're engineering, if you're creating music, if you're writing poetry, all the creative artistic shit comes from the right hand side of your brain. Why is it important to know that? You have the conscious mind, which is having this dialogue and is actively participating in taking this psychology class. You have the subconscious, which is always active, always on autopilot, always on go. This is your permanent memory. Random access memory is what you like to do, what you chose to do, and you happen to remember parts of a movie that you really enjoyed or parts of a song that you really like and really love. And whenever you're doing all the fun things, you have your random access. Oh, I remember the day I went surfing. Oh, I remember the day I went mountain biking. Or I remember the day I went to ride a dirt bike. The only way to hack the system, to take control, is to take control of the subconscious mind. The conscious mind does not like to be monitored. This is why you find it difficult to keep a journal or to record your thoughts or to expose your thoughts publicly. In your fear is your salvation. In your cloudiness is your pathway to clarity. Your liberation comes from that. So if you're afraid of water, learn how to swim. If you are afraid of swimming in the ocean because it's not a controlled environment, you don't know what's out there, learn how to swim in a controlled environment, such as a swimming pool. You won't have the sense of control of the environment by learning how to, swim in an Olympic style pool. Like all my kids are perfect swimmers. You know, like my youngest son, he could swim in an Olympic style pool, he could swim in the ocean. But you will have the sense of security of yourself, your personal training, your experience, etc. In psychology, it's very much the same. The subconscious mind is like the ocean, where the conscious mind is the swimming pool. Look how closely these two concepts combine: random access memory, solid state drive, permanent memory. We know what we can control consciously, such as this dialogue. We have to be careful with what we cannot control subconsciously. And most of our fears, doubts, and worries are locked in there in a chamber. What happens is it creates a safety valve or a safety net or a safety system like attraction control. And it says, be very careful with following your dreams. Why? Because we can fail attempting our dreams. We can fail trying. Let's play it safe. Let's go to corporate America. Let's learn these curriculums so that we can function in a job and in a position and in a career that is similar to putting blinders on a horse. The horse can only see forward because the blinders are there to distract the horse so the horse can look straight again. Why do we use that analogy? Because when you become a dreamer, an entrepreneur, a creative type, this is the mold that you're breaking through. You're removing the blinders. You're putting on the glasses of the future. And once you put them on, you cannot take them off. Once you know something, you know it and you dominate it. And it can only get better because now you've established a baseline. This is the reason why my podcast, my radio show, my YouTube channel, my books, my courses, my master classes, everything is conversation style. My music hits differently because I'm just having a conversation. I know that by externalizing these challenges, they no longer have a power over me. I know that as much as my subconscious mind just sent a jolt to my voice, as if it was a taser. When somebody's being restrained, they use the taser, right? Because these are the signs to show us consciously and subconsciously, because you're able to clone the mind, you're able to duplicate the mind. That's another concept that they never want to show you, and we can show you with different data points and different bodies of proof. The reason why it's doing that is because it's saying we're stepping out of the comfort zone. So you get the adrenaline pumping, you get the acid being pumped into your body. Um, you evacuate the oxygen level from your system, from your lungs, etc., and you feel like you're drowning. Yet you're in the same environment, in the same room, in the same place, whether you're listening passively or actively. Many people will listen to this lecture and will be on a treadmill, running in the gym, or lifting weights, or using wires for calisthenics, or riding a bicycle, or riding a mountain bike, or riding a skateboard, or riding lower rollerblades. Maybe they're riding a one wheel, which I'm considering buying one. The body can put you into this fight or flight scenario where you might feel like all these things are real because, in a sense, it is a projection of an augmented reality. But this one is not external, this one is internal. So you feel the depression, you feel broken down, you feel like you have a lack of energy. And therefore, to avoid that feeling, to avoid all those stress hormones being produced where you don't like the way that you feel, the system turns off once you go join corporate America. You go find a curriculum in a school, university, or tech school format, trade school. You learn how to do one thing really, really well. You launch yourself to the market, make yourself available, lock in a position, and you never look back. Social political pressures now take place. Now society claps and says, "Good job, you're okay." You would think understanding the core fundamentals of love and the nucleus of a family, a clan, a tribe, that a family member should be supported by the rest of the collective. How we were designed to be from inception, from design to be a nucleus of a family. You would assume that that type of support would be readily available. I just felt the acid pumping through my stomach because I'm part of that 1 percentile that will never have that. Not in the way that I feel, that I see fit, that I understand, that I master and dominate as it should be. So, this is what a bad traumatic memory does. It always triggers that negativity, those negative toxins. This is what we're flushing out right now. So this is all relative. See how the circle came full circle? One quick second. That's so good. The opposite is true in my family. These relatives that stepped out to do their own business, to create their own products and services, their own franchises, that wanted to do their own thing, they were chastised, belittled, attacked, put down, neglected, abused. Basilio is my great grandfather, great great grandfather. He's my great grandmother's father. Businessman, entrepreneur, traveler of the world, like really traveled the oceans, really went from Europe to the Caribbean, like pilgrimage style shit, like before there were countries and shit like that. At least not how we know it today. He was exiled, excluded from his family. We, on this side of the family, hold on to the final branches that he was able to extend. So now we establish a baseline, right? Then it moves on to his children, lands, tobacco, sugarcane, pineapple, rice, beans, carrots, cilantro, tomato, basil, oregano, garlic, no onions. That's why I hate onions. I like Funyuns, but I don't like onions. I think I OD'd on the Burger King onion rings, extra crispy, for so many years that I just can't. Ugh, can't handle it. I don't even like to cook with onion. I'll use a little onion powder. My culture is very common to cook with onions. I hate it. I just had tacos from a few days ago, and I spent hours picking out every single onion out of the meat. My great grandmother became an entrepreneur. She was isolated. She was belittled. She was pushed to the side. She instilled that into my grandmother, who during the Trujillo times in the Dominican Republic also became an entrepreneur. She was belittled. She was isolated. She was controlled. She was put down. But she married my grandfather. My grandfather was exactly like Basilio and had all the attributes of an entrepreneur like my great grandmother, which is why my great grandmother suggested that he marry my grandmother because he had all the qualities that my great grandmother was looking for in a man for my grandmother. And the difference was that they couldn't belittle her anymore because now she was married to an entrepreneur, person that developed lands and cultivated the lands. But it was only a matter of time before my grandfather was also belittled and pushed to the side for being his own person. Everybody else went to party, everybody else went to chill, relax, have a good time. My grandfather would go and develop the lands and plant in the lands and grow the lands. Eventually he got into different type of businesses and he started investing his money. Even in the lottery system, he started selling the lottery overseas. And he would sell everything that he could sell. And you buy them at a price, you sell them, you make a profit. But he also would take a percentage of his income and he would invest it into the leftovers. So he wasn't going back to get credit for what wasn't sold. He was buying them at an even more discounted rate, which allowed him to buy double or three times the amount that he would normally be able to get. And little by little, over the years, he would hit with tickets that he was trying to sell that he couldn't sell. That, if he bought for 50 cents and they were a dollar, he was making 50 cents profit. But now if they weren't sold, he could go back and get a credit of only 25 cents. So he would lose 25 cents, to give you an example. And what he would do is he would buy more at a discounted rate, knowing that there was a 90 something percentile that he was going to lose everything. And anytime that he hit big, like not just to buy more, he would buy land. So he became a banker. People would borrow money from him. They would use their lands as collateral, and he would buy the land, the surrounding lands, and make an offer to the remaining parcels. And he left behind this great fortune. Fast forward to my mother's generation. My mom was a businesswoman, forward thinking, visionary entrepreneur, had no support because my same family members are like acid. If you take my family and you throw them in a bucket of acid, the acid will jump out and tell you that it burns. That's the best way I could describe my family. My mother got into healthcare and hair care just like my great grandmother, just like my grandfather, just like I have great uncles that were doctors, etc. There's a lot of doctors in my family, by the way. Um, the majority of the people in my family are doctors. Some of them don't even know it, but they are. And again, I could teach a whole university class as far as that. My mother had this vision and it was never supported. Times were changing. By the time they got to, the city of New York, of course, there was epidemic of drugs. My relatives lost themselves in that world. And, it was a generational curse because my uncles were coming home. They were war veterans, but when they came home, they started peddling, you know, into controlled substances and eventually became addicted to controlled substances. And it fucked it up for that whole generation because there were so many people that wanted to aspire. Like my mother wanted a salon, something simple as that. And there was never any support for that. They held on. My grandmother would sell clothes and jewelry and shoes and leather bags and travel bags and products and services all the way up until, where she passed away. My other family members still do that. I have aunts that have their own stores overseas and stuff like that. Just kind of like I do my thing online with my clothing and my merchandise and stuff like that, but they have like a brick and mortar location. And of course, I got into technology, but the same recurring theme, me being my mother's son and aspiring to be in film and television and series and networks and sitcoms and doing music and doing modeling and traveling the world and trying to do this and trying to do that, it was never accepted. It was never authorized for me to dream or aspire to be more than what people wanted me to be. And it had nothing to do with my other relatives that were already in music and movies and already doing the damn thing. I was a victim of that. But I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't understand that my relatives that were struggling in music and entertainment and movies, they were grown. They could defend themselves. They could come back with a witty remark or whatever. Things that I really couldn't do. Fast forward to today. I spent today 4 hours doing research and I couldn't sleep because that's all I was thinking about. Give me 1 second. Oh my goodness. Things that are healthy just hit different, man. This is all organic, by the way. After 4 or more hours of research, I'm being bombarded left and right. This is every day. Venture capital firms, banks, equity firms, people coming at me because, my contract is open for negotiation, right? I'm a free agent. This is every single day. And believe me, when you're dealing with some of the challenges that I face every day, you want to just pick up the phone and say, "Yep, let's do it," right? I've always said that my tests are spiritual. This is not a physical thing, it's not a mental, psychological thing, even though we are teaching a class about it today. I find one investor. Let's talk about it. This investor used search engine optimization to locate investments that are unicorns, such as mine. Out of all the companies that I vetted just today for about 4 hours, most of my office time, even though I have a article for Future Tech Plus that I'm going to be publishing after we finish today's class. I liked his approach. He said, listen, I don't like to invest in companies, I like to invest in people. That resonated with me because having so many meetings over so many months, so many weeks, so many days, so many years, you start to look for these patterns. And as an entrepreneur, you want people to see you beyond the investment, or I have a propensity to care for that. Like, I want people to understand you're not just investing in one of my portfolios. You know, you're investing in me. This is my lifetime achievement, right? 8,000 song catalog, 45 books, you know, automotive designs, autonomous designs, hardware, software designs, a lot of fly shit that I work on, right? I accept it. We scheduled the meeting um, for the next following days. For this week, it's the first investment that I'm entertaining. I still have people like Arlen Hamilton that I'm not going to be able to reach out to minimum for a few weeks. And there's somebody at the top of my list, and shout out to you, Miss Hamilton. This is just to give you an example. Like, I'm walking a very unknown, uncharted waters of venture capital. So even though I was frustrated that I had to do so much research, nonstop, back to back, I was already mentally drained. I said, you know what? Out of all the companies that I turned down, including some that I've spoken to in the last few weeks, they're still reaching out to me. And they don't understand that this ship has sailed already. You know, I was content and very happy to have secured one opportunity. And I had spoken before about vetting out these venture capital firms a lot better. I can already see my approach having completely changed because I'm not just addressing every single one that's coming at me. I'm not going out casting the biggest fishing net in the ocean. I'm handpicking, like, I like this approach. Let me look into that. It's one of the first times that a angel investor, direct investor said, I just want to do business. I don't want to deal with the corporate structures. I don't want to deal with the, funding fund, whatever they call those things. Like, I just want to seek out unicorns. And I have to say that I admire and respect that. I have to say that I kind of like that approach because, in my opinion, it couldn't have come at a better time. This is something that I thought about recently. Moving beyond that, of course, I wanted to share that with all of you because if it inspires one person, then it's worth my time. You know, I get a lot of joy and happiness from being able to share some of these concepts with all of you. In a way, that's like a celebration. Do I publicly feel bad for Miss Arland? Not necessarily, because I feel that even a small investment would allow me the comfort and the space to solve a few things and then get her involved, where I'm already building in a space in the pitch deck to be able to bring her in, if at all possible. Um, it's not really a conflict of interest. It's just based on the research that I did today. And because this is the first investor that approached me that way, I want to explore and I'm excited to see what I'm going to learn, whether we close a deal or not. The timing is very precise because I have some deadlines that I want to meet. At the same time, moving forward, I have some content creation projects coming up in about 2 or 3 months if we're able to stay on schedule. And I'm gonna be able to speak. It's gonna be part of my reality series or one of them. I'm gonna be able to sit down with entrepreneurs every day, but I'm only gonna entertain 3 deals per day. So maybe at that point, I will speed up the process to speak to other firms. But I also know that in the next few weeks, I have a lot of other decisions to make. For example, I'm looking at some real estate right now. And, you know, I had a challenge kind of explaining that to my loved ones. And I understand the concept of time. So I'm constantly asking questions. Okay, when are you guys going to make this investment? What are you guys waiting for? I don't understand. You're just wasting time, wasting time. Moving on from that. And again, making it public because it's more challenging when you externalize it. Just like if there's a trauma that can do me harm, if I internalize it, if I externalize it, not only is it therapeutic, but it no longer has power over me and I can inspire the next person. Well, the same is true with this investment. It's hard to secure those meetings. It's hard to have those conversations. It's hard to put together the business plan and the proposal and the pitch decks and do the real life, real market evaluation of my company. Because when I'm negotiating, all these things are on the table. At the same time, I'm dealing with the most challenging time of my life. For all eternity, I already know I'm going to suffer the pain that I'm suffering right now. I've accepted it. I embraced it. I welcome it. I use it as my motivation. My life will not be about death. My life will be about living. And everything that I do in this lifetime has nothing to do with my death, period. I have committed myself to a higher cause. And again, these are my living testaments for all generations to come. On top of that, just the business side of what I'm negotiating is enough for me to teach you a university style class. But this is the element that hits home. My mother, for me, is patient zero. My mother is the reason why I became a doctor. My mother is the reason why I have all these great supernatural powers and abilities artistically and creatively. All that shit comes from my mom. I know that. My mother has found it challenging to tap into that. My mother pulled herself into this universe where she's protected her psychosis, where she can exist and live in that psychosis. But that psychosis is not my mother. Yesterday, I spoke to my mother. Today, it was not my mother. The day before, yesterday, it was not my mother. The day before that and the day before that was also not my mother. I have to suffer through the abuse of every defense mechanism in order to have access to my mother. I know that my mother is confused and my mother is trapped, but she's in a system that she cannot acknowledge. The only time my mother has been able to break away from that system is being very close to me. And because of the challenges that I'm facing with and dealing with right now, my mother cannot be with me, um, which causes torment to me. It hurts me. It bothers me. This is not a problem that I could solve with money. If I could solve this problem with money, I'd be a very wealthy man. This can only be solved with, in a sense, positioning. I had another word, it just slipped my mind. But unless all of these things are aligned, there's no way to get to that utopia. And for me, that is what bothers me the most. Not because I have control of it, or not because I don't have control of it. It's for more than one reason. You may find yourself in a similar situation. My advice to you is to be very careful, as we mentioned in the beginning, and do your best to move forward, even if it's not in the best way. At least you're conscious and you're making the effort every day to make it better. So, as challenging as my day was, I was burnt out, fatigued, very tired, dealing with a lot of different things at once. One thing I make it a point to do is the podcast, the radio show, teach the classes online, the YouTube channel, Future Tech Plus. I make it a point to make every day count, no matter what, because I know that there's millions of people that will be able to benefit from this long term. Even wearing my wife's shirt is a seed that I'm planting for the future. This is a conscious decision to do this. This is a constant reminder. It stays in the ether, in the cloud for all eternity. There's going to be a time where I'm going to be strong enough to look back at this video and be happy that I put this shirt on. And your conscious mind may not understand that, but the subconscious mind completely understands what I'm saying and why I'm saying it and when I'm saying it. I'm a human being, and there's a reason why I can't turn off my heart to my loved ones. As hurtful as they are, as toxic as they are, as abusive, neglectful, hurtful, belittling, all the negative things. The moment that I allow them to impact me and change who I am based on who they are, they win. And this is not a sense of winning or losing. This is more about never allowing an external force to change who I am internally. I can have a variable consciously and subconsciously, internally, externally, but it's a completely different thing for me to allow something externally to change who I am. So I'll give you an example. Last year, I separated all my assets from myself. I took my fortune, I gave it all away. I put everything in trust funds, corporations, holding companies, everything. Everybody in my family gets 14,000 pesos a month. That's it. 14,000, make it work. I get the same 14,000, you get the same 14,000. What you do with that, completely up to you. They don't know compound interest. They don't know how much that's going to be in a few summers. But it put everybody on a equal equilibrium. I know for a fact I have enough reason to believe. I've been through enough experiences with my family that if they ever came across wealth, they would never help me. They would never open the doors to their homes to me, to their hearts, to their spirits, and to their minds. They would never give me the opportunity. I have family members in a lot of businesses that I'm in. They would never make a phone call and give that letter of recommendation because of their ego, pride, social political pressures, insecurities, whatever it is. Whatever it is that's between them and God has nothing to do with me. I know how to disengage. I can be as little as you want me to be, or I can be as big as you need me to be. The choice is yours. If I show you my Batman, I'm not going to show you my Pepsi if you couldn't handle the Batman or the Starbucks or the Hercules or the Incredible Hulk. If you can't handle the Pagani design, you can't handle the Saint Martin. That means you can't handle the Rolex. You can't handle the Audemars Piguet or the Patek Philippe. If you can't handle a small investment, I'm not going to show you a medium one or a big one. If you can't handle that responsibility emotionally, physically, psychologically, and even mentally, I can't place that responsibility upon you. This year, I was celebrating many deals that eventually fell through, but at the time, the agreements were made. And I believe in my heart the reason why they were destroyed was because of the negative feedback. Those blessings got put in my hands. Their negativity destroyed that. So I separated myself from my wealth. I put everything on an even spectrum. Again, I know that none of these people have ever loved me, cared about me, would ever do anything to help me in any way. For the last 2 years, I begged and pleaded with them to help me do some of the most basic of things. You want to know what the reality is? The last 2 years, I've negotiated more money than in my entire life. Little do they know the doors that they themselves closed for themselves. Yet at the end, I was left with a choice. Do I still help them? I made a promise to God. I made a promise to my great grandparents, to my grandparents, to my elders. I made a promise to myself, a promise that I intend to keep. I have friends and family and colleagues and peers that I also made these commitments to, said these prayers for, and I made those decisions for. Even though the friendships are no longer there, the business partnerships dissipated, I am still going to keep my word. When you forgive, it's very much so about yourself as well because you're allowing yourself the opportunity to heal the wounds. See, when you forgive somebody, it's not just this person did me wrong and I forgive them. No, you're telling yourself, you know what? I did my best. It's time for me to heal. I know for a fact, I know for a fact, none of these people have ever loved me, cared about me. They've had countless opportunities throughout my life to show me that they cared about me, that they loved me, that they this, that they that. Gaining some weight back, regaining my strength, and yet still I have decided to fulfill the things that I said that I would fulfill. Very simple. Do you know that this next meeting that I'm going to have is worth more money than these people can even, they have no idea. Yet, why should I care? Why should I give a fuck about them? Should I charge them a love tax for the pain and the suffering? Or should I be the man that God has created for me to be? Most people do have the need for self preservation. And the first thing that they would do in a situation like mine is to think about themselves. Most people would ask me things like, yo, why do you even care? Why do you even have to deal with that? And I tell them because I love them, because I made a promise to God, because I would never let their hatred change who I am. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be this. I'm so over that. That shit hurt me for so many years. I'm liberated from that. I can be as small as they want me to be or as big as they need me to be. When speaking to my mother today, well, not my mother, I spoke to my mother yesterday, but the other, uh, like the other uh, entity, right? I felt the anguish and I felt the pain and I felt the suffering. And there's not much that I can do but provide my love and my support. Take everything one day at a time. You know, it hurts me because I am dealing with so much. And in a perfect world, I would love to have these people as a part of that. But I accept that that's never going to be like that. As a matter of fact, the more successful I become, the worse the abuse is going to be. Externalizing this and sharing this is a way of helping the next person that may find themselves in a situation where you don't understand, like, where is this abuse coming from? Why is this happening? Yeah, somehow you have to focus on those that do love you, that do pray for you, and do pray for your success, and do want you to be successful. You can never and should never give power to people that don't love you over you in your life. The thought of me being that relative for them to one day in the future say, yo, you know that guy, or that guy's related to me. Oh, but he doesn't care about his family. Oh, he does all that charity stuff because he feels guilty. He feels bad. But he won't even return my phone calls. People forget all the years that I was calling, asking for help, asking for an opportunity, asking for love, for guidance, for advice, for support, only to be judged, be belittled amongst many things. I have allowed an empty space to fill itself. And it is a challenge. I have an 8,000 song music catalog that is priceless. And I've been negotiating it for all this time. These have been the worst 2 years of my life. And the people that I needed the most were the first people to walk away. Some of them tuned in, if you look closely, just enough to peek in for me to see them and for me to say one word for them to run. I hope that this helps, even if it's one person. So, want to give a special shout out to those same um, people that made sure that they uh, presented themselves. You know, let me just give some thumbs up to my fans real quick. I'm a cool superstar. Hmm. Okay. Let me let me share this to my what you call it. Let me send this to my business partners and my colleagues and my graduating class. My students are in finals. Hmm. It's pretty cool. So open up your Baja app. Let's go to the markets real quick. And that was like the climax there. Again, I hope you guys notice how I took a pause to acknowledge them just so that they could scatter. So let's pick up right where we left off, okay? Meta EPS. at 6.43 in quarter one beats expectations. Meta Platforms Incorporated revealed on Wednesday that its earnings per share in the first quarter of fiscal 2025 came in at 6.43, surging 37% year over year and coming above analyst expectations. Revenue in the 3 months ending March 31st stood at 42.3 billion, up 16% compared to the same time frame in 2024, while net income soared 35% to 16.6 billion. Second quarter total revenue is expected to be between 42.5 billion and 45.5 billion. We've had a strong start to an important year. Our community continues to grow and our business is performing very well. We're making good progress on AI glasses and Meta AI, which now has almost 1 billion monthly actives. CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the company stock popped 4.19% in the after hour sale trade following the release report. Meta Platform stands in the red 0.98% at $549 a share. Microsoft's Q3 revenue up 13% to 70.1 billion beats estimates. Microsoft Corporation said on Wednesday its revenue in the third quarter of fiscal 2025 landed at 70.1 billion, jumping 13% compared to the same period a year earlier and topping analyst estimates. The tech giant's intelligent cloud revenue climbed 20% to 42.4 billion, while Azure revenue growth increased by 33%. Net income rose 18% year on year to 25.8 billion or 3.46 per diluted share, and operating income surged 16% to 32 billion. Cloud and AI are the essential inputs for every business to expand output, reduce costs, and accelerate growth. From AI infra and platforms to apps, we are innovating across the stack of being able to deliver for our customers. CEO Satya Nadella stated the company's stock jumped 5.53% in the after hours trading following the earnings announcement to sell at $417.50 apiece. Microsoft Corporation stands in the green 0.31%, $395.26 a share. Nvidia. China is right behind the United States in AI. United States can build chips at home. Nvidia Chief Executive Officer Jensen Huang told CNBC on Wednesday he is certain the United States can manufacture chips domestically using its own resources. He said building $500 billion worth of AI infrastructure will demand major investments from multiple partners. China is not behind in terms of AI development. China is right behind us. I mean, they're very, very close. But remember, this is a long term, this is an infinite race. Huang warned, stressing the need for sustained competition. He also pointed out that half of the world's AI researchers are Chinese and called Huawei one of the most formidable tech firms globally. Nvidia Corporation stands in the red 0.09%, $108.92 a share. Grayscale unveils fund for Bitcoin using firms. Grayscale Investment LLC introduced a new exchange traded fund ETF on Wednesday named Grayscale Bitcoin Adopters ETF, listed under the ticket BCOR. In a statement, the firm said this fund is designed for investors who want to support companies that have added Bitcoin to their financial reserves. Instead of buying Bitcoin directly, people can invest in this fund to get exposure to firms that believe in Bitcoin's long term value. We couldn't be more excited to launch Grayscale Bitcoin Adopters ETF, which offers investors a new way to tap into the rising trend of corporate Bitcoin treasury adoption without needing to hold Bitcoin directly. Global head of ETFs at Grayscale, David Laval, mentioned. As more companies integrate Bitcoin into their balance sheets, BCOR provides a forward looking strategy to capture this momentum through traditional equity markets. It's an exciting opportunity for those who believe in Bitcoin's long term potential, he added. Ethereum stands in the green 0.84%, $1,808.90. Bitcoin in the green 0.74%, $94,878 even. DeepSeek quietly uploads new math AI model. Chinese artificial intelligence startup DeepSeek uploaded on Wednesday a new specialized AI model dedicated to solving math problems to an open source AI community. Hugging Face, without releasing an official statement or posting about it on its social media. The new model, Prover V2 671B, does not have an official description on the company's Hugging Face page, but it has 671 billion parameters and is built on top of DeepSeek's V3 model. It represents an update for the company's Prover V1.5 introduced last year, which was designed for theorem proving 1 lean 4. DeepSeek's new model follows an announcement by Alibaba Group Holding Limited, which launched its latest Qwen 3 series of large language models LLMs yesterday. That included the model Qwen 3 235B A22B, dedicated to solving math and coding queries based on two models, thinking and non thinking. Not bad. Mm, okay. Now let us move on. Let me show you abuse. Those family members that come in and take a peek and leave, they're not going to stay for this portion. This is how the abuse contributes. Let's uh finish these two modules. Actually, we have three, and then we'll finish off with some theory. So let's go to epistemology, philosophical study of knowledge. Epistemology is the branch of philosophy that examines the nature, origin, and limits of knowledge. Also called theory of knowledge. It explores different types of knowledge, such as propositional knowledge about facts, practical knowledge in the form of skills, and knowledge by acquaintance as a familiarity through experience. Epistemologists study the concepts of belief, truth, and justification to understand the nature of knowledge. To discover how knowledge arises, they investigate sources of justification such as perception, introspection, memory, reason, and testimony. The school of skepticism questions the human ability to attain knowledge, while fallibilism says that knowledge is never certain. Empiricists hold that all knowledge comes from sense experience, whereas rationalists believe that some knowledge does not depend on it. Coherentists argue that a belief is justified if it coheres with other beliefs. Foundana- Foundationalists, by contrast, maintain that the justification of basic beliefs does not depend on other beliefs. Internalism and externalism debate whether justification is determined solely by mental states or also by external circumstances. Separate branches of epistemology focus on knowledge in specific fields like scientific, mathematical, moral, and religious knowledge. Naturalized epistemology relies on empirical methods and discoveries, whereas formal epistemology uses formal tools from logic. Social epistemology investigates the communal aspect of knowledge, and historical epistemology examines its historical conditions. Epistemology is closely related to psychology, which describes the beliefs people hold, while epistemology studies the norms governing the evaluation of beliefs. It also intersects with fields such as decision theory, education, and anthropology. Early reflections on the nature, sources, and scope of knowledge are found in ancient Greek, Indian, and Chinese philosophy. The relation between reason and faith was a central topic in the medieval period. The modern era was characterized by the contrasting perspectives of empiricism and rationalism. Epistemologists in the 20th century examined the components, structure, and value of knowledge while integrating insights from the natural sciences and linguistics. Epistemology is the philosophical study of knowledge and related concepts such as justification, also called theory of knowledge. It examines the nature and types of knowledge. It further investigates the source of knowledge like perception, interference, and testimony to understand how knowledge is created. Another set of questions concerns the extent and limits of knowledge, addressing what people can and cannot know. Central concepts in epistemology include belief, truth, evidence, and reason. As one of the main branches of philosophy, epistemology stands alongside fields like ethics, logic, and metaphysics. The term can also refer specific positions of philosophers within this branch, as in Plato's epistemology and Immanuel Kant's epistemology. Epistemology explores how people should acquire beliefs. It determines which beliefs or forms of belief accusation meet the standards or epistemic goals of knowledge of which ones fail, thereby providing an evaluation of belief. The fields of psychology and cognitive sociology are also interested in beliefs and related cognitive processes, but examine them from a different perspective. Unlike epistemology, they study the beliefs people actually have and how people acquire them instead of examining the evaluative norms of these processes. In this regard, epistemology is a normative discipline, whereas psychology and cognitive sociology are descriptive disciplines. Epistemology is relevant to many descriptive and normative disciplines, such as the other branches of philosophy and the sciences, by exploring the principles of how they may arrive at knowledge. The word epistemology comes from the ancient Greek terms episteme, meaning knowledge or understanding, and logos, meaning study of or reason, literally the study of knowledge. Despite its ancient roots, the word itself was only coined in the 19th century to designate this field as a distinct branch of philosophy. So that's an excellent baseline start. Let us continue. What is psychological trauma? We discussed it and we're going to go further into it before we conclude. Psychological trauma. Psychological trauma, also known as mental trauma, psychiatric trauma, emotional damage, or psychotrauma, is an emotional response caused by severe distressing events such as bodily injury, sexual violence, or other threats to the life of the subject, to their loved ones. Indirect exposure, such as from watching television news, may be extremely distressing and can produce an involuntary and possibly overwhelming physiological stress response, but does not always produce trauma per se. Examples of distressing events include violence, rape, or a terrorist attack. Short term reactions such as psychological shock and psychological denial typically follow. Long term reactions and effects include flashbacks, panic attacks, insomnia, nightmare disorder, difficulties with interpersonal relationships, post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and brief psychotic disorder. Physical symptoms including migraines, hyperventilation, hyperhidrosis, and nausea are often associated with or made worse by trauma. People react to similar events differently. Most people who experience a potentially traumatic event do not become psychologically traumatized, though they may be distressed and experience suffering. Some will develop PTSD after exposure to a traumatic event or series of events. This discrepancy in risk rate can be attributed to protective factors some individuals have. that enable them to cope with difficult events, including temperamental and environmental factors such as resilience and willingness to seek help. Psychotraumatology is the study of psychological trauma. We're going to move on to the last module. We'll do theory and we'll be all set and done. 5 paragraphs, 5 pages, 5 sentences each, 5 words minimum, 5 computer spaces in between. This article is brought to you by Times Entertainment. Harvard professor shares specific foods and diets that can reduce cancer risk. Adopting, adopting proactive lifestyle habits, including regular screenings and stress management, can significantly lower cancer risk. Maya Gang Song highlighted the importance of diet, noting that ultra processed foods increase cancer risk due to poor nutrient profiles and potential carcinogens. Conversely, diets rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grain, and nuts can be beneficial in reducing cancer risk. While cancer continues to pose a major global health challenge, what often gets overlooked are the everyday lifestyle choices that can significantly reduce the risk of developing it. Simple preventive measures can go a long way. Regular screenings, managing stress, and minimizing exposure to environmental toxins also play crucial roles. Though not all cancers are preventable, adopting these proactive habits can greatly lower the risk, empowering individuals to take charge of their long term health. Recently, Mayan Gang Song, MBBS SCD, Associate Professor of Clinical Epidemiology and Nutrition at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, shared different foods and diets that can reduce cancer risk and foods that increase its risk. During his presentation, ultra processed foods and cancer risk epidemiologic insights at the American Association for Cancer Research annual meeting 2025, Song explained why ultra processed foods increase cancer risk. First, compare with unprocessed or minimally processed foods. Ultra processed foods tend to have poor nutrient profiles, so they tend to have high salt, sugar, energy density, saturated fat, and are very low in fiber and vitamin, he explained. Adding about the harmful effects of additives, Song added, finally, ultra processed food may contain potential carcinogens. These carcinogens may be produced during food processing. For example, from processed meat, when the meat is cooked at a high temperature, there can be some potential carcinogens resulting from this process. Some examples include heterocyclic amines, which can be generated during the production of processed meat. These three factors can all underlie the potential adverse effect of ultra processed foods on cancer risk. Yogurts, fruits, vegetables, nuts can reduce cancer risk. Over the past few decades, we have learned a lot about how diet and nutrition may influence cancer risk, and we have identified various foods or nutrients that may be beneficial for cancer. This includes the high intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and some studies suggest yogurt. We do know that these generally healthy dietary patterns are associated with a lower risk of cancer. So there you have it. These are the the final module. So now let us bring everything in, right? These are all examples to deal with a lot of these elements. It's very unfair for a person to be locked into this chamber. Again, today was a perfect example. They'll come into the live to peer only to leave when something doesn't fit their belief system. Not understanding that this live becomes a video and it's there on the cloud forever. The entire purpose of them doing that is only to be hurtful. Notice what we were discussing, which is my catalog, of course, when these people would make themselves available. Every single day, I do my best to administrate that. The best advice that I can give all of you is to just power through and think positive and know that things are going to work out. And at the end of the day, all we can do is our very best every single day. All I can do is my best with this situation, and the same goes for each and every single one of us. It's very saddening, but it's even worse and more detrimental if I internalize it and I don't share it publicly because I'm not afraid. This is not something that I'm going to hold on to if it's going to do me harm. So I am challenging the universe. I'm declaring war. I'm saying, look at these amazing blessings that I'm working on right now, and then look at all these emotional challenges. I hate to go back to this, but in my books, I will give examples of why you see the guy driving the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the Lamborghini by themselves. When they first reach success, they're trying to share it with the world, and people just don't appreciate it. Eventually, they enter this quantum solace that they just understand that they're speaking a different language to a different group of people. For me, this is my reality. None of these people in the future will ever have anything to say when I create the ultimate distance. Because the truth of the matter is that they don't realize that I already have. And I leave you all with that. Thank you once again for tuning in. Have an amazing day today. May you conquer everything in your path. May everything that you touch turn into solid gold bars and silver bars and beautiful and precious gemstones such as moissanite and laboratory grown diamonds. Always remember to dream big because dreams come true. It happened to me, and I know for a fact it's going to happen to you. See you guys in the next one. God bless. And thank you for stopping by. And we didn't have coffee today, but we had a lean, green, organic machine to flush out the toxins from the system. And we started with coconut water from Thailand, which is like the medical tasting one. But of course, I like the other Caribbean style. God bless.